Metro's Silver Line will officially open to the public, and we all know about the construction delays leading up to this point. But this new line almost didn't get past the planning stage. We're joined right now by Virginia Senator Tim Kaine. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Glad to be with you.
You were watching this as governor, involved in this as governor. I said died 1,000 deaths since it was first considered. From Metro's beginning, we heard from the GM he's not having any sleepless nights over the opening.
Good.
Your reaction watching this unfold?
It's been exciting. I first saw a scale model of this when I was lieutenant governor, and I think the scale model had been built about 10 years before I was lieutenant governor. We worked very hard when I was governor of Virginia, and the key was, could we get enough federal financing in phase one to enable the construction to happen? And there was a day in early 2008 where the FTA administrator told us after all the work we had done, after everything, all the planning, that the project wouldn't qualify for federal funding, and that meant that it was dead. And I had to persuade the Secretary of Transportation to overturn him. And Secretary of Transportation Mary Peters was a fantastic partner. I worked with her. She was the Secretary under President Bush. And that day in late February of 2008 where she said, okay, I've heard you. You're right. I think we can make this happen. We have some more questions to answer, more work to do. But that was a very exciting day, and tomorrow is going to be great.
Are you going to get on board tomorrow, the new father, so to speak?
You know, what I've decided to do, I might be too overcome with emotion tomorrow, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them open, and then I'm just going to show up one day at Wheelie Avenue and ride to work. You know, I live in Richmond, but I think one day when I'm coming up to work here in the Russell Building, I'll just drive out to the Wheelie Avenue,
and see it for
stop, hop on, and just ride into Union Station and check it out just like everybody else.
And just make sure you don't park in a neighborhood without a
Right, I'll let somebody drop me off there. That's right.
Phase two, any looming issues that could still derail it?
You know, the phase two, again, the big issue was the financing, and Secretary LaHood and the Department of Transportation and the Obama administration has been very supportive, just as the Bush administration was. So the basic financing package is set for phase two, and the construction is already underway. So I know with a project size, is there going to be some controversy? Yes, I can guarantee there will. I don't know what it'll be. There will be something. But this project is just too right for Northern Virginia commuters and businesses and the future of Dulles Airport. So I know it's going to happen. I feel a great sense of confidence.
All right. Whether this is going to happen, a ceasefire deal could be brokered in the Gaza Strip. Secretary Kerry, U.S. officials say progress being made. What is the answer to the conflict here?
Andrea, that is such a big question. I mean, the answer is, you're right, the righteous step is a ceasefire. Hamas started to escalate rocket attacks in an unprovoked way. They didn't need to do it. And in my view, they decided to try to scuttle the peace talks between the Palestinian Authority on the West Bank and Israel, and this was their way of doing it. They've got to stop the rocket attacks. Once that happens, Israel can stop the necessary defense that they're undertaking. But then the parties have to be back at the table to put the grievances on the table and continue to look for what the UN intended in 1947, which is an independent Israel and an independent Palestine living side by side in peace. That's been the dream since 1947. It's U.S. policy. It's the best thing for Israel. It's the best thing for Palestine. It's the best thing for the world. And so each side has to put their legitimate concerns on the table, and we've got to thresh through them. The discussions were going well in March, and then they fell apart.
And they seem to continue to fall apart
over the years. They start, they stop, but the folks that want peace, what we've seen in recent days is peace is hard, but the alternative is worse.
It's worse. This situation and what's happening in Ukraine, critics say it's all because of the weakness that people sense in the U.S. administration, specifically President Obama. They don't see him as a leader. They no longer see the United States as a superpower. How do you fight back against that perception, and is it true Vladimir Putin has no reason to negotiate
Andrea,
with the United States?
I hate the attitude I hear among critics in the United States, a kind of a blame America first attitude. It's like, are you kidding? You're going to blame America because Putin is kind of an authoritarian? When the Soviet Union went into Hungary in 1956, it wasn't because Eisenhower was weak. When they went into Czechoslovakia in 68, it wasn't because LBJ was weak. When they went into Afghanistan, it wasn't because Carter was weak. When Putin went into Georgia in 2008, it wasn't because George W. Bush was weak. Putin is a KGB guy. He has a Soviet Union mentality, and he's going to do
But backing down, they don't back down because they no longer see the United States as a tiger with teeth.
The U.S. has the largest economy in the world. The U.S. has the strongest military in the world. What we need to do is rally Europe to try to join us in sanctions. We've put sanctions on Russia that have been effective, but they're only effective to a certain degree because the U.S. is not a big part of the Russian economy, but right. Europe is. Mm-hmm. So if Europe will join us in the sanctions, believe me, Putin and Russia are very scared about that. The thing we ought to be doing is more vigorously sanctioning the Russian energy sector, because Russia is a Rust Belt economy with natural resources, and they try to buy friends because, right. Hey, we can sell you a lot of natural gas and oil.
And that is the problem with Europe.
That is the problem with Europe. But if we help Europe develop their own energy, if we consider maybe exporting energy to them, if we find them other suppliers, they can wean themselves off of Russia, and that's a way to check Putin.
We'll have to end it there. Senator Tim Kaine, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely,
and enjoy your ride on the Metro Silver Line sometime next week. You might see him there.